Hello.
Hey, good to see you.
Virtual hug.
Hug. Oh, I should have worn my matching t-shirt.
Yes, I thought
Assume
of
all
you
women
this
are
morning.
technical and capable of breathing fire. As we
So true.
are. We
So
don't
true.
show it very often, but we are.
So you and Romeo were having a great conversation there.
Yeah, it's only the second time we meet, but I feel like we could talk for hours and hours. And some good
Yeah, and coming
reflection.
from different perspectives I think of him as oh, he's the coding guru and property-based testing, and I don't associate him with the things he was actually talking about, which um, focusing on the communication skills and the thinking skills and the things that are hard to teach.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why we don't teach them. Easier to send people off to programming class.
I think that's one of the reasons sometimes is like we can just say, tick off. Now we've learned this. I'm seeing the example, for instance, like in some transition. So instead of helping people how to run a meeting, like a Scrum Master, for instance, instead of helping a Scrum Master learn how to facilitate, we teach them these are the rules of Scrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's very rude compared. There's a lot of good Scrum educations out there, but it feels like that's more important. And
Mm-hmm.
really, a lot of what you do, if you don't want to be a Scrum secretary, is you facilitate meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure they happen. But it seems to be a skill that kind of like sometimes some people get to learn this, but it's not the default in our industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can remember a team I worked on several years ago. We would have these retrospectives, and some of the team was remote, and some was in the room, and nobody facilitated the meetings really. And they were just awful. They were completely unproductive, and whoever had the loudest voice and interrupted the most, got to talk, but nothing changed as a result. And Marlena Compton and I were both on that team, and we were like, okay, well, first we asked, can we hire a professional facilitator? No.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we better learn some facilitation skills. So Marlena got a book, and every couple of days she'd actually take pictures of the pages and send out to everybody to share. And so gradually over time, we learned, and
Yeah.
we like, oh, we're gonna be all remote so that it's not unfair to the people who are remote, all on the same level. We're going to have rules about how we talk. We're going to break into smaller groups so people feel like they can talk. And yeah, that was interesting thing. But we thought of that. We had to think of that for ourselves. There was no manager who said that.
No, it's kind of interesting because a lot of these things is also, about making people feel safe. And I find it, especially now that we are online, somehow for a lot of people, it's harder to speak on a screen than if you're in a room.
Hmm.
And we have a lot of people who don't even feel comfortable speaking up when the whole team is there. So I think stuff like, for instance, the breakouts in smaller groups where you can talk one on one. I think that's like a really good basic thing to do to help people feel safe enough to speak up. And we want to hear everyone's voices.
Yeah, somebody in the chat on the YouTube chat was talking about how they started in IT to make to make the world a better place for people.
Yeah.
I think some of us are in it with the goal of making IT safe for the people who work in it.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I want to make it a place where people feel safe enough to kind of be who they are and where they can grow.
Mm-hmm.
So that they are happier going to work, they are happy as people, and they make awesome products. Because I think if we feel safe, we are also going to get better ideas. I mean, then we don't have to use that kind of brain power to kind of worry about, okay, am I going to say the right thing? We can just say it. And maybe if I come up with an idea, it might not be it, but like I usually say, if you think you have a bad idea, remember somebody came up with like 5 versions of Sharknado, which are like sharks that come up in a tornado. And um, there are things like that, and they happen. And I've seen a little bit of number 2, and it's incredibly bad, but so bad you can't look away. So they're a success. And I mean, somebody came up with that idea, and I bet the first person who said, you know what, let's have some tornadoes and put sharks in it, But a lot of the things we do, I mean, if you look at, we're sitting here in front of a computer having a conversation. Um, that would be something where people would go, 10 years ago, we couldn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we had some of the tools, we wouldn't be able to do these things. And I think to create those things and get those ideas and make them work, we need that safety.
Yeah, and then that allows us to have diverse and inclusive teams because people can feel safe. And then we benefit from the collaboration of people with different perspectives and different, I think people I have different unconscious biases, but I can't find any science to back that up. Because that's part of my theory. We do have science that companies with diverse people are more innovative and make more money, but we don't know like why is that. And so that's my theory, is our unconscious biases hold us back so much. And
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, there's things we don't think about because we haven't tried it. I mean, like if you, I remember the first time I saw like I don't know what it's called, the proper name in English, but like stuff for your period, like tampons and stuff, and then that was put into a men's room. I was like, oh, that's interesting, but I'm also not trans, and I mean, depending on how you transition, you may still have your period and
right.
be a man.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that is something I would never think about because it's never been a problem to me. And I
Right.
think that's one of the things we can have with diversity is that we bring in things. I mean, there are horrible stories, for instance, about how things don't recognize black people, or they, I think wasn't it the first face recognition in the iPhones where any black person could open the phone because, and I mean, I think that's the stuff we will run into if we're not diversified,
Mm-hmm.
and it's. I like that. I can't remember who said it recently that it's more difficult because if we are different, it's not always going to be comfortable. We're going to have different opinions, but
Mm-hmm.
if we can create a safe environment where that is okay, and if we are kind of all, it's okay that it's a little bit difficult sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we all look the same and we all like the same things, it's very nice and comfortable, but it's not going to get us anywhere. And I think
And
that's very important.
helping people reach their full potentials. I
Yeah.
was really I think April Jeffers is going to be talking here later, unless she did already, but she helped facilitate some workshops with the Agile Alliance this summer about racial equity and things like that. And we did have these small group discussions, and it was very eye-opening for me as a white woman to talk to these black men and black women that they can't even achieve their full potential at work because they need to stay under the radar to feel safe.
Yeah.
They can't question anything. They're afraid to propose new ideas. They just do their best work as best they can without attracting any attention. And I thought that is so horrible and sad.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm sure they're not the only ones who feel that way. So this is really critical to create that safe environment.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, we all know different things and we think differently, and I mean that's what we need to do to create awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But also just to, I mean, we spend so much time at work. Shouldn't it be a nice place to be? Why should we need to hide who we are? And like I said to Romeo, there's stuff that's private that you don't want to share. But why should we need to kind of hide all the personal things?
I worry that maybe I overshare. And that's, I've been told it's good to show your vulnerability because you're a leader. So if you're having a bad day, it's okay to say something about it. But sometimes I find I'm the only one saying those things, and I think
But I think,
maybe I'm just making
being a
myself
trail,
look bad.
I think being a trailblazer is always hard. I mean, we are just one stepping down the grass, so there's a path behind us. Um, and I think sometimes when we feel like we're oversharing, it's because we are not used to doing this in a work environment. I mean, we've been trained so much with, oh, don't show emotions at work. And if you say, you know what, I slept really badly I'm probably going to be grumpy today. A lot of people's going to find, oh, that's really weird. That's really oversharing. I mean, I had recently where I was so frustrated about work, I cried myself to sleep. And the next day I said that in a stand up. I was just like, I'm just so frustrated. I lack structure and clarity. I don't know what's expected of me. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually cried myself to sleep yesterday. And you could see people squirming a little bit because they don't like to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we need to be in a place where we can say that. And if you're the first ones doing this, you kind of need to have the guts to do it, because, and there are going to be people who overshare these things, or feel that you're oversharing. But then you need to have a safe enough environment to kind of saying, that was a little bit too much detail. And what I
Mm-hmm.
find that in safe environments, people are actually quite aware of this. I mean, for instance, you and I in a Slack group where, not everyone wants kids. And very often people go like, oh, you're a woman, you must want to have kids. And in that particular group, we are very good at saying, there's going to be something here about kids, and then put it in a thread in the Slack. So I
Mm-hmm.
find that the safer the
Mm-hmm.
environment are, the more people also care about things like this, so that they don't overshare. They go like, what, I know Gitte is so tired of being told that it's not too late for her, so I'm not going to talk to her about kids.
Mm-hmm.
We get to know each other, we get to know these things. And I mean, I'm now at that point where I don't really care about it anymore. But I had like a few years where everyone would go like, "Don't worry, it's not too late." I'm kind of like, did I say I wanted kids? I mean, I always thought I would have kids. It just never happened. But it's creating an environment where it's okay to kind of say, what, if you want to talk about that, could you do it when I'm not in the room, because I don't feel comfortable with it or
Mm-hmm.
safe with it.
Yeah,
And I think we can, by doing that, we can create those safe spaces as well.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and I think another part of it is showing appreciation to the people who are willing to bring up the difficult issues in a good way, in a safe way. I went to I was at the contest conference last year in New York, and they brought in some people from outside the software industry. These people were just more focused on people's happiness at their
Mm-hmm.
workplace and stuff. And they said the number one reason that, by far, the number one reason that people are unhappy with their jobs is lack of appreciation.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's so true. And it's so easy to give appreciation. It doesn't cost anything.
And it's so easy to forget, because what we appreciate is something that is good. It's not causing problems. We want to remove problems. So very often when I start out with retrospectives, I have a model where there's appreciation in it to kind of help people. I really appreciate you, Lisa, for instance, for you're really good at reaching out to me if I'm down. And this doesn't cost me anything, but it makes you aware that I actually really like what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I really agree with, we should do that more in the workplace.
Yeah, especially, for people who are doing something difficult or something new, to kind of encourage them along, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we're supposed to be talking about the future of software development, but I'm always concerned with the present. And so I'm curious, when you go into a new place to help them as a consultant or as a coach, like, how do you get started? How do you get to feeling like you feel comfortable? How do you make them feel comfortable in that situation? And it must be exhausting also.
Well, I think it's exhausting in a way because I use a lot of my senses. Like, I don't just listen to people. I kind of try to see. Well, I don't do it consciously anymore, but like see what's not being said. So, for instance,
Mm,
I also mentioned it in the talk with Roman. When I start with a team, I have a one-on-one with each team, and I talk to them about, what do you think I can help the team with, or you as a team member with, and I talk to them, tell me a little bit about yourself. So kind of building that connection. Um, and then I come in with, I mean, what they see is what they get. Kind of, there's no false pretense. I'm going to say things, and I find that building these small connections they kind of help. And some people, like, they really enjoy this or find it helpful, so they continue with one-on-ones.
Mm-hmm.
And some people kind of go like, yeah, that was really cool, and then now we know and we have this connection, which makes it easier, like when I'm in a setting, to kind of talk about these things. Also, then I get a little bit of feeling of, you know I know that X wants to say something, but they're not very good at kind of being the first one to say it.
Mm.
So I can kind of sometimes pull them in if I know they want to say something. Whereas I know that Y is not very comfortable speaking when the whole team is there, even though they have good input. So to cater for that, like splitting out in smaller groups, for instance. So even if the group kind of looks the same and I have two people who have good input, I would not kind of call out the one. So getting to know people, I think that's a lot of what we need to do. Also, when we work in teams, getting to know each other a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How do we tick? Because we're all different. And that's one of the things I really hate about a lot of the like agile industry or whatever people call it, is a lot of it has become recipes.
Yeah.
um, and I mean, let's take Scrum as an example. I think Scrum is a really good starting tool,
Mm-hmm.
but what's really essential is to get to know about each other, and how do we actually collaborate, how do we start learning stuff like that. And I think focusing on those things, I think, is much more important than following a recipe, at least in my
So
opinion.
true. I'm writing that down because
You
it's
just said
really
this in a
true.
talk.
Well, no, but I'm just thinking I could apply this at work
Yeah,
because
that's
I
cool.
just see the same kind of thing. It's like, oh, here, let's form this new team, and then I don't see the follow-up of now how do we start building relationships on this team and help people feel comfortable with each other. And I think it's a great, as a team member, I can ask people, what can I help you with? And we can talk about how could we learn to work together better, collaborate more.
And also asking questions. I mean, you've been in the industry very long. You know a lot of things, and by you asking questions, you also show. You know what? Even if you've been in the industry for long, there's stuff you don't know, or stuff you forgot. I mean, all of us forget. We sometimes we hardly remember what we did yesterday. Today,
Right.
I actually forgot to turn on my boiler when I was making coffee. I didn't find out until I took a sip of cold coffee. I mean, we all make mistakes and stuff like that, and I think especially when we are role models, which I think all of us are in some stone, also show that we make mistakes, and do it in a good way. I know some people who go like, "Oh, I was so stupid, I made a mistake," but what you're really saying is that making mistakes is stupid.
I know, and I do that a lot. I beat myself up a lot.
What I do very much, what I practice doing, is what I learned from Christopher Avian: say, "Congratulations, I am human." Uh,
Right, that failure bow
yeah,
concept.
exactly, and then we can, I failed, and let's see what we can learn from this. And it's an option to learn that we're never going to do this again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, but at the Agile Testing Days, James Lindsay and Ann Calder came up with this. They'd had an impromptu session like you did at that conference, and they had a variation on the failure bow, which is wallow in your misery that you did something wrong,
oh,
forgive yourself, and then
yeah,
dance.
yeah,
And that works really well for me.
yeah, and I think that's very essential for us to figure out what works for us, because we're all individuals. I need to be really careful also, like especially on bad days, that I don't just beat myself up for what I do.
Well, and especially when you're there to help a team. I mean, it's a big responsibility to be their coach, I think.
Yeah. And I think when I started out as an agile coach, I wanted to do everything perfect. I was kind of like, if I'm not 100% on top of things, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to help them. And I realized that a lot of what I do is the small things. It's about helping them, make that conversation or communicate, or meet for a fika and discuss something. Fika, by the way, is Swedish for coffee breaks, for those of you who don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's a very important thing in Sweden. We have our coffee
Yeah.
breaks, preferably with something to eat
Hmm.
as well. Um, just help those things along so that we can figure out things, um, and have those small conversations. I think that's really important.
Do you think it's harder in general to do these things now that everybody's remote, or do you think there are any potential advantages we could take advantage of when everybody's remote?
I think there's some advantages by, I mean, I know a lot of, I've talked to a bunch of people who are introverts who really love working from home. Um, but even those are now getting to, I want to see other people than the ones I live with. But I think that, yeah, it can be an advantage for some people to do it this way. And I think that I'm hoping that's something we take into consideration when we go back. I mean, I'm 100%, I want to work in an office, but maybe you can agree in your team, Monday, Tuesday, if anyone wants to work from home, that's fine.
Hmm.
But we would like to work together and kind of be in the same room where we can actually go up to a whiteboard, whatever, the rest of the week. But I
Hmm.
do think it's an advantage for some people, but I also think it's a disadvantage. I mean, just the fact that, I mean, I've done trainings before and stuff, and I'm quite used to seeing myself on video. But for a lot of people, they become really self-conscious about this, which means that they focus on, oh, how is my hair on the video, instead of focusing on how do I contribute to this meeting.
Hmm.
So we need to take that into consideration as well. Should we use video or not, for instance?
Yeah, some people aren't even comfortable turning on the camera,
No,
or
no, and I think,
maybe they just feel like maybe they've got two other people working from home in their
yeah.
household.
And I mean, I still haven't gotten a green screen, so in my Zoom I can't make backgrounds. Not that I have anything to hide, but you know,
My computer can't do it, and it's not powerful
no,
enough.
mine either. And I kind of, should I really get a new computer just to have a nice Zoom background? So I decided no. And no, but I
Well,
think, yeah,
no,
I
go
think
ahead.
it is an advantage for some of us. I think that some people, especially if they don't have to turn their camera on, might want to contribute more.
Hmm.
Some people who like to work a little bit more alone might find it easier, and also I think like if you do, I forgot the other name, the new name for mob programming.
Ensemble.
Ensemble, yeah, sorry. Like if you do ensemble, I think some people will be like, if they're in a room, and they're the one typing, somebody will look at them all the time. But when you're sitting remotely, nobody's looking at you. So I think for some people that might actually make it safer for them, because nobody's like kind of literally watching over your shoulder.
Hmm.
Or if you do pair programming for that matter, or pair coaching, pair designing, I think for some people that would feel more safe. Um, and I think that's something also to discuss about, like, if you feel more safe now, what can we do to bring that into our workplace if we go back to working in an office?
Hmm.
Which I hope that a lot of people will do, because I still believe there are something about being in the same room, interacting, that we can't replicate when we are online.
Well, unfortunately for me, I'll be remote no matter what.
Yeah,
So, although at least there's a possibility I can go visit the office.
yeah, and
Although my
yeah,
office right now is in Portugal, so that might be hard.
but not too
Um,
bad to go to Portugal. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, I personally would rather be in an office, but life
yeah,
has trade-offs, and
yeah.
I have to have my donkeys. So,
I mean, nothing is ever going to be perfect. So we kind of like, what can we do with the stuff that we have? How can we make it good for people, even with we will always have constraints, and I think that one of
mhm,
the good things about constraints is it makes us more creative sometimes. We
definitely.
will figure out what to do, and then when we go, hopefully go back to a normal life at some point, if life was ever normal, and what can we learn from that? What can
Hmm.
we bring to that? How can we create that thing? And I mean, we're trying out so many things now. We're sitting in meetings, um, and I think if we can remember to actually learn from it and not just do it, take the step back. I mean, I love retrospectives because we take the step back.
Hmm.
And way too often a retrospective is just going to be, oh, how did we work this sprint or this iteration? But using kind of that format or another format to kind of go back and go like, what really helped our team now that we're working remote? What was the things we struggled with?
Hmm.
What solutions did we find? Is that a solution we can use in a different setting as well?
Right.
So I guess it's reflecting and acting upon it.
Yeah, like you say, the creativity in the face of the constraints, and how can we help ourselves think more laterally?
Yeah, like I was in a meeting with Wano where she asked people if they, I can't remember the question, and she said, so if you can say yes to this, put a post-it note up. And so, I mean, we were
Oh,
agile coaches, so we put up a post-it note. Like the one I have here just happened to be blue. And people had all kinds of colors. And that was actually like, it kind of put a smile on people's faces seeing all these
mm-hmm.
colors. Um,
Yeah,
and that's something I would never
it's
even
simple.
think about. It's a very simple thing. So I think we are learning a lot of things. We are small tips and tricks, and just taking that step back and going like, how can we actually bring this, whether we work remotely or not, afterwards? And I mean, even if we work remotely once COVID is contained or whatever we do with it, um, then we're not gonna be working remote because we have to, but because we want to.
Mm-hmm.
And we might forget some of the good things that we learned because we had to. Um, so reflection and bringing things in, I think that's a important thing.
Yeah, being forced into a situation is a lot different than saying, maybe we should all try working
Yeah,
remotely for a while.
yeah. But I mean, I've seen some tweets where kind of like, so who decided the work from home strategy? Was it like your CEO? Was it your CTO? It's like, no, it was COVID.
Yeah.
So it kind of pushed us a step further than I think a lot of companies wanted. But I mean, I'm in Stockholm, for instance, and which is quite expensive to live in. So for
Mm,
some developers or whatever they are, it might be better for them if they have families and they want garden stuff to not live in Stockholm.
right.
Can we combine this way of working remotely with that so that maybe they come into the office once a week, or
Mm-hmm.
what can we take out of all this, and how can we make it a better place for all of us?
Mm-hmm. Well, it can really enrich people's lives. I've talked to people who now their company is going all remote. They've decided even when COVID's over, they won't require people to come in the office. And so people can follow their dreams. If this person wanted to live in South America for part of the year every year, and now he can do that. And it
Yeah,
wasn't possible. It opens up new possibilities for sure. And but at the same time, things about how our human brains work against it. So I've learned from Linda Rising that the most powerful way you can influence people to agree with your idea or adopt your idea is to do food, give them good food
yeah,
to eat
yeah.
together. How do you do that remotely? I guess you can order in something nice for everybody.
I was actually, so one of my friends who works as an agile coach in Spotify have been doing these home sites. It used to be off sites, but now they're home, and simply sends a box like with small snacks,
Mm,
stuff like that, so that people have it for the home site. So that can be one thing you can do. I mean, I know people who've been doing wine tasting remotely, where you kind of get small samples and then you taste wine from home.
hmm
Um, so it's not impossible. It might be more expensive, but I mean, even just sending, a box of candy to everyone, that's not like crazy amount of money, but it will mean that everyone would feel included.
Yeah, I
Um,
just got a box or a tower of chocolate boxes
oh,
from my
cool.
employer yesterday, out of the blue.
Not bad. Well, my employer's me, and she's not very good at sending stuff.
Darn, you gotta talk to her.
Yeah, well, at least I can go out and buy a Swedish lussekatt, which is like a bun with saffron in it.
That sounds
I
good.
My company did buy that for me today.
That's awesome. Your company wanted you to have that to be
Yeah,
happy.
yeah.
Well, it's been wonderful talking with you,
Good
Gitte. What a
talking to you.
treat. And
Have fun with Marit.
seriously, I just selfishly used this for my own education
I
and wrote
was
down
gonna
some
say
ideas.
hi to Marit, but I can do that because I see she's listening.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so it was really good seeing you again. Until next time, have fun.
Yes, I like your little Christmas tree, by the way.
Yeah, I thought that Christmas tea on
Very
the dragon.
festive.
Then yeah.